The second part of this week is the Indian subcontinent achieves freedom. So we're back looking at specifically India. This is chapter 34, section 1. Our first objective is describe the partition of India. That's the division of India. 2, summarize the leadership of Nehru. 3, explain the division of Pakistan. And 4, summarize the independence of Sri Lanka and Bangladesh. So we're having a lot of things are happening in India and around India. So we've already discussed a little bit about India's struggle against the British rule. So the Indian independence movement, it intensifies. That means it becomes the main focus in India after World War II. The country ends up splitting, and there's sort of tension between the Hindus and the Muslims. And the big reason why is because of religious reasons. The Congress Party, which is this flag right here, this represents the Congress Party, they are leading the movement in independence, and most of the members are Hindu. Now, a part of the Congress Party, if we remember from the last section, is Gandhi. Gandhi has a lot of support from the Congress Party. The second major political party in India is the Muslim League. That is this flag over here. As you can see, this is a symbol of Islam, the moon and star. They are formed with Muslim interests. And so these parties, they do not get along. Now, the leader of the Muslim party is Muhammad Ali Jinnah. He is the leader. Freedom brings some turmoil. So after World War II, the British, they have already given a lot of self-government to India, but they haven't completely released India to be independent. World War II was very costly for Britain, and they started to rethink whether they can afford to be in India anymore. But before they leave, there's still a lot of tension between Hindus and Muslims in India. And so the British, and actually this results in a lot of death and fighting. We have over 5,000 people die in Calcutta over one of these riots. So the British, they end up adopting a policy called partition, and this is splitting India into 2 countries. Now, they're splitting it on the lines of religion. So they're splitting up where the areas of Muslims would be compared to where the areas of Hindus would be. This is how Pakistan is born as a nation. Pakistan is a Muslim country, whereas India is mostly Hindu. In Great Britain in 1947, this is a few years after World War II, they finally grant both of these areas independence. So now we have Pakistan and India is completely self-governing. They do not have any influence of the British. But this partition does cause some problems. The reason why is the British had to draw a line where they saw was the easiest to divide Muslims and Hindus. But many millions of people are still living in these regions who are of the opposite religion. So we are starting to see millions of people being resettled into either the Hindu area or the Muslim area. And as a result, this has a lot of violence erupting during this resettlement. We have over 1 million people dying during this time. And the reason why is, again, the Hindus and Muslims don't get along. And so while they're resettling, there's a lot of rioting and fighting going on. At the end of this sort of era, we have Gandhi actually goes and tries to again use this policy of nonviolence to convince people of fair treatment of Muslim refugees. So at this moment, Muslims are not being treated very well if they're in a Hindu area of land. So he's basically speaking on the behalf of Muslims. Now, Gandhi was not Muslim, he was Hindu, and the fact that he was arguing for the opposite side, this makes some extreme Hindus very upset. As a result, one extremist Hindu ends up actually killing or assassinating Gandhi. And it was strictly because he believed that Gandhi was being too polite and too nice to Muslim rights. While the British thought it was smart to sort of separate the Muslim and Hindu area into Pakistan and India, we still have sort of a region called Kashmir that is still fought over to this day. At the time, they believed because in Kashmir they had a Hindu king that it belonged to India. But the majority of the population was Muslim, so therefore Pakistan believed it belonged to them. They immediately started fighting over this region. In 1949, the UN sort of steps in and demands a ceasefire. That means no more war or no more battling. But it hasn't really helped. We still have random breaking outs of violence in this area today. Now, modern India, we have this president, Nehru. Now, Nehru is the same man who I made you read a primary source last weekend. He's the man who says that India is going to stay out of the Cold War. Because India has just gained their independence, they really don't want to be pushed between the US and the Soviet Union. Generally, Nehru was actually a very good leader in India. He was the first prime minister of the independent India, and he pushes for a lot of economic and social reforms. He also pushes for democracy in India as well. Some of the social reforms he pushes for is by eliminating or at least balancing out the caste system. The caste system sort of kept poor people poor forever. And he's trying to actually give opportunities to those poor people. We also have him giving more rights to women. So women are having more of a say in politics in India as well. Here we have him sort of along with some of the other non-alignment nations meeting together. So overall, Nehru was quite a good leader. After Nehru dies, we have some troubled times in India. Nehru's daughter, Indira Gandhi, ends up ruling from 1966 to 84. And generally, she was a very capable leader. But the problem is there were many extremists, extreme Sikhs. Now, Sikhs is a different religion, so it's neither Islam or Hindu religion. And these Sikhs, they are pushing for their own independence and are quickly getting very radical and violent. So Indira Gandhi, she ends up trying to stop some of this Sikh extremism. And again, it's the same place in Amritsar where the massacre was. She ends up sending in troops that end up killing over 500 Sikhs. The Sikhs, of course, are going to respond negatively to this, and they eventually assassinate Indira as sort of a retaliation. After that, her son, Rajiv, he ends up becoming prime minister. But again, Rajiv, he is actually assassinated in 1991. So here's Indira and here's her son Rajiv. Both of them end up being killed by sort of political extremists. Today, India still faces some challenges. First of all, India is still developing as a country. And it is one of the most populated countries in the world, next to China. They actually determine that India and China will surpass China's population soon. India also not only faces a lot of population, social, and religious problems, we still have tension between Hindus, Muslims, and Sikhs in India, but we also have a continued struggle with Pakistan. The major area is Kashmir that we still see Pakistan and India struggling and fighting over. The last thing is that both of these nations, Pakistan and India, have developed a nuclear weapons program. And they have already demonstrated to each other that they have nuclear weapons as sort of a threat. So far, nothing has really come of this, but we almost had a war in 2002 that was quickly resolved in the area of Kashmir. Now let's discuss a little bit about Pakistan. So as soon as Pakistan separates from India, we actually have Pakistan is divided into East and West Pakistan. West Pakistan is over here, and we have East Pakistan here. Now, the funny thing is that even though East Pakistan is smaller, they have a larger population, but the tension starts to rise in this country because the central government is in West Pakistan. And often West Pakistan doesn't really listen to East Pakistan even though East Pakistan has a majority of the population. Another reason why Eastern Pakistan gets a little upset is the fact that there is tons of aid coming from different countries to Pakistan. But because it's coming to the central government, it's coming to West Pakistan. And they don't actually give any of that aid to East Pakistan. This results in some violence, and basically East Pakistan wants to be independent from West Pakistan. And in 1971, they have a civil war. The East ends up winning, so that regardless of the West having sort of more stability, the East wins, and they end up calling themselves Bangladesh. That is what East Pakistan is called today. As soon as Bangladesh separates from West Pakistan, we have a lot of instability in Western Pakistan, which is now just Pakistan. First of all, this civil war actually ends up killing over 1 million people. As well, we are starting to see that Pakistan has lost half their population and a large chunk of valuable land. So there are many different sort of government rules in Pakistan. None of them can really achieve stability. Many are taken out of government, are impeached or overthrown. We have many accusations of corruption. And we have Benazir Bhutto, that is this female up at the top. Now, her father was one of the ministers in Pakistan. He ends up being taken out of his role. She ends up getting elected for 2 terms, but eventually also gets taken out. Now, she's been in leadership back and forth now throughout the 80s and the 90s. But currently in Pakistan, we have the military force is ruling. After the civil war with Pakistan, we also see Bangladesh is having a lot of struggles in politics as well. They have many leaders coming in and out, a lot of corruption in government. But in recent years, we're starting to see more democratic reforms in Bangladesh, and many of the elections are becoming less and less corrupt every year. The other thing that Bangladesh struggles with is natural disasters. And this affects their economy. So they are a low-lying nation and they're close to the ocean, and therefore they have a lot of storms and cyclones that often ruin farmland and other things. The last thing we're looking at is Sri Lanka. Now Sri Lanka, if we look back at this map, you can see Sri Lanka right here. It's a large island off of India. It was formerly Ceylon, and it wins its independence in 1948. This population on this island is split between Buddhists and Hindus, and there are 2 different culture groups as well, the Sinhalese and the Tamil. Now the Tamil, they end up beginning to fight in their own state, and that struggle still continues today. So we're still seeing some tension in Sri Lanka as well. Your first question for this chapter is, do you think it was smart for the British to partition off Pakistan and India? Tell me yes or no and give me reasons why you think that. Your second question has to do with Pakistan. Do you think that it was also smart for Pakistan to have a partition as well? Or do you think that it would have been smarter for Pakistan to stay as one country? Again, give me reasons to your answer.